Okay, let's talk about this. Why is it, when you see that notification or that simmering argument starting online, maybe just some outright outrage unfolding on your screen, why is it so hard to just look away? There's this pull, isn't there? Like, it's almost magnetic, this online drama, the tea, whatever you want to call it. And for this deep dive, we're talking about the whole range. From kind of casual gossip and maybe those awkward public call-outs, all the way up to those huge moral outrage threads that just seem to explode and take over everything. We all know how social media feeds and those really smart algorithms, well, they're basically designed to push this stuff front and center, whether you went looking for it or not, really. So yeah, our mission today is to peel back the layers. We want to get into the fascinating brain chemistry behind it all, and maybe some of the evolutionary reasons, the social stuff, why we're so drawn to these online fights, and importantly, what we can actually do about it. How can we engage more mindfully? In a way that actually feels okay, maybe even good, instead of just draining.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
It really is everywhere in our digital lives, isn't it? And what's super interesting is how certain language spreads. There's a 2017 study, I think it was in PNAS.
PNAS, yeah, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences.
Right. They found that posts with moral emotional words carrying, a strong sense of right and wrong or outrage or virtue, they spread significantly faster. They went more viral.
So it's not just the information itself getting passed around.
Exactly. It's the emotional charge that acts like a social accelerant.
Yeah.
It turns a simple comment into this shared experience, everyone feeling indignant or supportive together.
Okay, so when you talk about moral emotional language spreading like wildfire, what's happening like deeper down? Is it almost like we're catching feelings from other people online?
That's actually a really good way to put it, yeah. There's another study, this one in Science Advances, that looked at outrage amplification.
Amplification.
Yeah, how it grows. It showed that people tend to ramp up their own expression of outrage over time, basically just from seeing other people do it.
Yeah.
It's a type of social learning.
Ah.
And it creates what you could call a spiral of outrage. The more you see, the more likely you are to jump in, maybe even more intensely than the last person. It just feeds itself, a real loop.
Wow, okay. And it's not just about the outrage spreading, is it? There's also something about us being drawn to negativity in the first place. That brings up negativity bias, right?
Yeah.
Why does the bad stuff seem to grab us so much more online?
It's pretty fundamental to how our brains work, actually. There's a well-known theoretical review called Bad is Stronger Than Good. It really sums it up.
Bad is stronger than good. Okay.
It basically explains why negative things, events, emotions, even just information, they have a much bigger, more lasting impact on our attention and our psychological state than positive things do.
Like how one criticism can stick with you for days, but a compliment might just fade.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Or think about the news disaster. Stories often get way more attention than stories about, say, slow, steady progress or quiet successes. Our brains are sort of wired to notice potential threats or problems first.
So online, where you've got conflict, criticism, people getting called out, outrage everywhere, it's like tailor-made to tap into that bias.
Precisely. It makes those dramatic narratives inherently more attention-grabbing than, I don't know, a nice picture of someone's lunch. The lunch doesn't stand a chance, really.
Yeah. Poor lunch.
Okay, but what's really driving that constant pull? Because sometimes it doesn't even feel good to watch the drama, but you still feel compelled, like you have to keep checking. It feels like a chase.
You've really hit on a key thing there. It's often explored through something called incentive sensitization theory. It helps us pull apart wanting versus liking.
Wanting versus liking, okay.
So dopamine, everyone's heard of dopamine, it's a neurotransmitter. And it actually drives the wanting part much more strongly than the liking part. Meaning it drives the motivation to go seek out rewards, the anticipation of getting something more than it drives the actual pleasure you get from the reward itself. And online drama, it creates this constant state of wanting to know what happens next. Ah, okay. So it's less about actually enjoying the outcome, the resolution, whatever it is, and more about the thrill of finding out, the pursuit itself.
Exactly. It's a bit like a slot machine, right?
Yeah.
You keep pulling that lever. It's not just for the big win, but for the chance of the win. That unpredictable, intermittent reward, maybe a new twist in the story, a really cutting reply, something going viral that keeps us absolutely hooked, pulling the lever again and again.
That makes so much sense. The slot machine analogy is perfect. Or maybe like a cliffhanger.
Yes. Another great analogy. A never-ending cliffhanger loop. Social media platforms, maybe not always intentionally, but certainly effectively, are designed to keep presenting these little mini stories that just compel you to stick around.
Yeah.
What's the next update? Will they apologize? Will they fight back? Who's going to comment next?
Right.
And this constant stream of novelty, the unexpectedness of it all, that feeds right into those brain reward systems too. Our brains are just fundamentally wired to seek out new information. Drama delivers that constantly.
Okay, so you've got the brain chemistry, the wanting, the novelty, but there are deeper things going on too, right? Like social stuff. You mentioned gossip earlier, and things like envy or even schadenfreude. That weird feeling of satisfaction when someone else messes up, that all feels really basic, primal almost.
It absolutely is. Let's take gossip. From an evolutionary standpoint, it's way more than just idle chit-chat. There was a study in Current Biology, I think 2021, and also a review in Sage journals looking at gossip. Both point out these really crucial social functions it served for, well, millennia before the internet.
Like what did gossip do for us back then?
Well, a few key things. First, sharing information, even negative stuff, could actually build social bonds. It creates an in-group feeling, like we know something others don't, or we agree on this.
Okay, I can see that.
Second, it's about vicarious learning. By hearing about other people's screw-ups or maybe their successes, especially in a dramatic way, we learn the social rules. We see the consequences of breaking norms without having to make the mistake ourselves.
Learning from others' drama.
Right. And third, really importantly, gossip worked as a way to enforce those norms.
Yeah.
It helped communities identify people who weren't following the rules, maybe apply social pressure, and kind of maintain order in the group.
Huh. So you can almost picture it like around an ancient campfire, right? That's how they kept tabs on everyone, reinforced what was okay and what wasn't.
Exactly. The digital campfire just makes the tribe potentially a million strong, and the gossip travels instantly, globally.
Wow. Okay. And what about the other stuff? Envy. Schadenfreude.
Yeah, so social comparison is huge online, obviously, and that ties into envy, seeing someone else with more status, more success, whatever. And Schadenfreude, that feeling when they fall. There was a paper in Science back in 2009, Takahashi and colleagues. They used fMRI brain scans.
To look at envy and schadenfreude?
Yes, and they found something pretty revealing. Experiencing both envy and Schadenfreude could activate reward centers in the brain, specifically an area called the ventral striatum.
So there's actually a neurological kick, a little reward when we see someone we envy stumble, or just when we see misfortune generally.
The study linked it more to the envy context, but yeah, it suggests there's a brain basis for that. Sometimes uncomfortable feeling of satisfaction when someone else faces misfortune, especially maybe someone whose success made us feel envious.
That's fascinating and a little unsettling.
It is. It shows how deep these reactions run.
And speaking of how things look online, our perception of it all can get kind of warped, right? Like, how outraged is everyone really?
That's another critical piece. There's research, I saw a study on PubMed about norm misperception, and it found something really interesting.
Which is?
We tend to massively overestimate how much moral outrage other people are actually feeling online. We see the really loud, really angry comments because those often get amplified the most. And we just assume that represents how everyone, or at least most people, feel.
So we mistake the loudest voices for the majority opinion.
Pretty much. Or at least we overestimate the intensity of the feeling across the board. And this misperception, it can feed the cycle. If you think everyone else is super outraged, you might feel pressure to match that tone. Or you might assume the situation is more dire than it is, which pushes you to react more strongly yourself.
So our skewed view of the outrage actually creates more outrage.
It can definitely contribute to that spiral we talked about earlier. Yeah.
Okay, so if we step back and look at the big picture here, it feels like we're pulling the threads from lots of different places.
We really are. I mean, think about it. We've touched on experimental evidence, like those brain scan studies on AV and Schadenfreude, or lab experiments looking at how outrage spreads. We've talked about broader theoretical ideas like negativity bias or the whole wanting versus liking thing with dopamine. And we've dug into evolutionary explanations for things like gossip. Plus, we hinted at how the actual design of these platforms, the user experience, kind of pours gasoline in all these pre-existing human tendencies.
It really paints a picture of these deeply ingrained human behaviors meeting this very new, very powerful online environment.
Exactly. And it's important to be nuanced, of course. Correlation isn't always causation.
Yeah.
Just because two things happen together doesn't mean one caused the other definitively. But the sheer amount of evidence pointing in the same direction from all these different angles, It strongly suggests these psychological forces are absolutely central to why online drama is so captivating and why it gets amplified the way it does.
It's like the internet didn't invent these tendencies, but it definitely turbocharged them.
That's a great way to put it. Turbocharged is right.
Okay, you're deep in the dive with us now, really getting into the weeds of what shapes our online world, maybe in ways you hadn't quite considered. If you're finding these connections, these insights, as compelling as that drama thread you scrolled past earlier, maybe even more so, then why not subscribe to the deep dive? It's honestly the best way to make sure you catch every exploration we do, digging into the why behind the what, and helping you navigate things with a bit more clarity. So, knowing all this, understanding these deep psychological pulls, what can we actually do? Does knowing this give us more power? Because it feels like we should have more agency than just being swept along.
No, I think it absolutely does. And a lot of the potential solutions lie in, well, conscious choices and maybe some design thinking. For instance, platforms could theoretically introduce more de-escalation cues.
De-escalation cues? Like what?
Subtle signals, maybe prompts, that encourage cooling things down instead of adding fuel to the fire. Imagine before you hit reply in a really heated thread, a little pop-up asks, is this comment likely to de-escalate the situation? Just something to make you pause.
Ah, interesting. And you mentioned slowing the scroll earlier. What does that look like in practice?
That's about deliberately adding a little bit of friction back into the experience. Things are often designed to be too smooth, too frictionless, encouraging impulsive reactions.
Right. One click, instant reaction.
Exactly. So friction could be things like those prompts we just mentioned, take a breath before posting, or maybe even slightly delaying the ability to comment on a rapidly escalating thread. Anything that interrupts that automatic dopamine-driven reward loop and gives your more thoughtful brain circuits a chance to catch up.
Like putting little speed bumps on the information highway.
That's a perfect analogy, yes. Creating moments for pause. Another idea is using reframing prompts. Before you post, maybe it asks, is this constructive? Or how might this comment be perceived by someone holding a different view?
Okay, encouraging a little perspective taking.
Precisely. And then for us as individuals, a huge one is setting boundaries around what we consume, especially with parasocial conflict, that drama involving online figures we feel like we know but don't. Recognizing when it's becoming too much, when it's genuinely impacting your mood or well-being, and having the ability to just step away, close the app, mute the conversation. That's a real skill.
That feels really important, knowing your own limits. Okay, so let's try and boil this down. If people take away just a few key things from our conversation today, what should they be? Like actionable takeaways?
Okay, 4 or 5 key things. First,
Yeah.
recognize that negativity bias. Just know that your brain is wired to pay more attention to conflict and bad news. Knowing that allows you to consciously choose where you put your focus instead of just letting the loudest, angriest stuff grab it automatically.
Right, acknowledge the bias to fight it.
Got it. Second, try to distinguish the wanting from the liking. That urge to click, to refresh, to keep scrolling.
Yep.
Ask yourself, is this genuinely enjoyable or informative right now? Or am I just chasing the next potential update, like pulling the slot machine lever? Being aware of that difference can help you disengage.
Okay, wanting versus liking, that's a big one.
Third, question the perceived outrage. Remember that study about norm misperception? Online anger can look way bigger and more widespread than it actually is. Don't let the volume of the loudest voices dictate your own emotional state or push you into reacting defensively or excessively. Pause and consider if it really represents the whole picture.
Good reminder. Don't assume the loudest or the majority.
Fourth, be mindful about gossip. Understand its deep roots, why it feels compelling, sure, but practice it consciously online. Ask, is my participation here building connection in a healthy way? Am I learning something useful? Or am I just adding to a negative pile-on that doesn't really help anyone, least of all me?
Mindful gossip. I like that framing. Okay, and maybe one more.
Yeah, fifth, actively use slow the scroll techniques for yourself. Even if platforms don't build them in perfectly, you can create your own friction. Make a personal rule. Pause for 60 seconds before replying to something inflammatory. Take 3 deep breaths. Close the app and come back in 5 minutes. Give yourself that space to respond thoughtfully, not just react impulsively.
Those are all really practical. Thank you. It feels like understanding all these deep human tendencies and how the online world messes with them, it really does empower us. It helps us maybe reclaim some of our attention, engage with our natural social curiosity, but without getting sucked into the negativity, the pile-on. Maybe the real deep dive isn't just into the drama itself, but into our own patterns of engagement. asking ourselves not just what we're consuming online, but why we're consuming it, and how we can make those interactions actually serve our well-being, not detract from it. If this deep dive has sparked some new thoughts about your own digital life, maybe given you a fresh lens or some useful tools, then we hope you'll join our community of curious minds. Subscribing to the deep dive is the single best way to make sure you keep getting these kinds of insights, explorations that help you understand the world, maybe yourself, just that little bit better. We hope to see you on the next one.